Very good morning. Namaste. I'm Shalana Newton from Apollo Shrine Foundation, and I'm very happy to welcome all of you to today's webinar on COVID-19 in children and young adults. So I really hope all are safe and are staying at home, and people who are eligible for vaccination, and most of us above 18, if you're not vaccinated yet, please get your vaccination as soon as possible because vaccines are safe and vaccines save lives. So please do not hesitate. If you're not vaccinated please get your vaccination as soon as possible. So coming to today's webinar, we have Dr. Indra Jayakumar with us. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. She is the Senior Consultant, Pediatric Emergency and Intensive Care with Apollo Hospitals. And she is also the Medical Director of the Apollo Shrine Foundation. So I'm very happy to have you with us today for this webinar. There's no better person who can give us more clarity on this. So as we all know, Shine is a campus health program. We work with schools and colleges. We work for the student community, with the teachers, with the educators and everybody. So we have been receiving a lot of questions on how COVID-19 is affecting children, especially in the second wave. We're seeing a lot of children getting infected with COVID-19. So we have been getting a lot of questions from parents and teachers and everybody. So we have put those questions down, and I'll be asking those questions to ma'am, to Dr. Indra. Suppose that if you have any queries, you can please drop it in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask the questions directly to Dr. Indra. So until then, please stay on mute, and I think we can begin with the session now. Ma'am, shall we begin?
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Shalina, for that intro. It is so nice to connect with you, parents. I think the only good thing about this coronavirus wave and this pandemic has been the fact that you can connect virtually to so many people across continents. I think that's the only good thing. And though I'm not physically able to meet you all, I wish to assuage all your anxieties, uncertainties, your stress. I'm a pediatric intensivist. At the moment, I'm now speaking from the Apollo Cancer Hospital. We do have children with cancer also who do get COVID, but don't, fortunately not so frequent. And this, Shalina has organized this. I want this interaction to be, I want you all to post all your questions, your queries, do clarify your doubts in this 40 minutes. So please do take this opportunity. Now I will indulge Shalina with her questions, so which will also answer a lot of your doubts. So Shalina, yeah?
Yes, ma'am. So the first question, so why is this COVID second wave impacting more children and the younger group, the young adults, compared to the first wave?
We all do agree that our life in this pandemic has turned totally topsy-turvy. And for kids more so, I mean, they can't understand what's happening. If we adults are confused, then the kids even more so. There's remote schooling, hybrid schooling, no play with and no interactions. And for kids, that's so important. So children's routines are anything but routine. So why is the second wave impacting more children and young people? Because in the first wave, we had the kids at home in lockdown. The elders are already vaccinated or were infected in the first wave. So this second wave, we are seeing adults less than 45 years getting the COVID disease because they had been going out, they had been working, they are not vaccinated. Kids are not vaccinated. Kids have started interacting, playing with each other, having group plays at homes. And COVID appropriate behavior is very difficult for kids for the entire day. You cannot ask them to mask, properly for the entire period of time. They cannot maintain social distancing all the time. So it is very difficult, and they are not vaccinated yet. Children usually get infected from somebody in the household. So it is not that kids get infected and pass on the virus. Usually they get it from some adult in the household. So it's very important that the adults, the parents do get vaccinated, because it will protect everybody. It will protect the kids. It will
Good
protect
morning,
the
Brenda.
grandparents also.
Right.
But reassuring to note that the percentage of children getting infected to the overall positives COVID disease is not alarmingly increased. Our hospitals are not overflowing with sick children. There are a lot adults, we know where there's been a scramble for hospital beds, but
Yeah.
kids, fortunately, it's not a crunch for bed space. We are seeing a lot more sick kids this wave as compared to the last wave, because there's so many. The overall population that has been infected and has got the disease is a lot. So when you say
Yeah.
the percentage of kids also are proportionally increasing. So
Yes.
by and large, it is about 10 to 13% of overall COVID cases. So the percentage has not alarmingly changed, but because so many have got the infection this time because of the moving around, the different variant strains, the kids are also reflecting that infection.
Right. Okay. So what are the possible symptoms that we can notice in children? COVID-19 infection symptoms.
So world over, evidence from the US and other countries, Europe, UK, etc., and India, and our experience as well, kids infection in kids is mostly asymptomatic. So they do
Okay.
get the virus, but
Right.
it's mostly asymptomatic, which is very good. They have a better immune response than the comorbids and the elderly. But if they do get the disease, it is usually mild, self-limiting, more like a flu. They may have 1-2 days. It may not even be noticed. And the mortality worldwide is low. So that's very
Okay.
reassuring for parents, right?
Right.
The symptoms are similar to a common flu. Pre-existing ailments may increase the risk. So if if the kid has cardiac problem or some other asthma, then the risk slightly increases. And so we have to keep them, like in adults, we have to keep them a little more protected and watch them. Most kids who get coronavirus have fever, running nose, they may have headache, cough, and can be managed at home. So if your kid has any symptoms, make sure your child drinks a lot of fluid, takes rest, and paracetamol for fever. That is usually the drugs and the treatment that is would be needed at home, and that would suffice. Cough syrups, a little bit something for antihistaminics for running nose, that would be enough. And simple paracetamol. Remember, don't overdose with paracetamol. So the dose is about 15 milligrams per kilo per dose, 6 hourly. Don't, and try to avoid NSAIDs like Brufen and other drugs.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. So the next, in adults, we've seen quite a few cases where there are post-COVID complications. And most of it, because of other health issues and other comorbid conditions that the adult group has. So what are the post-COVID, complications that the younger group can face?
Yeah. So before we discuss the post-COVID, I would want to just share with the parents what they have to, if a child does get the disease, when should the parent worry and seek help? So if your child has severe cough, very high temperature more than 2 days, not not drinking, has got severe abdominal pain, gastrointestinal symptoms are common in children. So if you have severe stomach pain, profuse loose stools, vomiting, it is COVID. In many of if a child has fever in this pandemic, we would think more of COVID. So you have to at least rule that out. Seek help with your doctor, with your pediatrician, rule that out before you think of other things, and isolate the kid also. So the other symptoms that one has to watch for is rash on the body, conjunctivitis, red lips or tongue, difficulty in breathing or chest pain. In babies, infants, it is the babies not unable to breastfeed or unable to keep the food down. So is excess sleepiness. If the child prefers to sleep, even if there's no fever, that's something that you have to reach out to your pediatrician. So post-COVID illness is seen more in adults, but there has been a paper follow-up from the Great Ormond Street, Great Ormond Street Hospital, 6 months follow-up of children after COVID, and they've followed up 46 children, and there have been, these are the hospitalized children. So I told you 80% are asymptomatic, only few require hospital. And so this follow-up is only those who are hospitalized. So it's just a small proportion of children, and most of them recover. And that's very, very reassuring. So parents, please don't panic, don't be paranoid. Just a handful had some residual problems. So COVID in children, what we are seeing in this wave are two different phases. So we have the first phase. So I said it's the mild flu-like illness. A very small proportion, maybe 5 to 10%, would require hospitalization for respiratory distress, for little pneumonia, like in adults. They may require oxygen, they may require steroids, they may require ventilation. So we are seeing adolescents and teens who are getting hospitalized in this wave for pneumonia like adults. Most of these children have been a little towards the plum side. In obesity in adults and children is a comorbid condition also. So these children and adults do get a little more severe disease, and we have to keep a watch. The second phase, so this is your pneumonia phase. The second phase, which is about 2 to 6 weeks after a COVID illness, which could be asymptomatic, is your multi-system inflammatory syndrome. I'm sure you would have heard of this in the news. It's called MISC. It was called the PIM, Pediatric Inflammatory Multisystem Syndrome. It was called the PIMS. Now it is called the MISC, which is Multi-System Inflammatory Syndrome of COVID. We are seeing all pediatric hospitals are seeing this syndrome. A few kids coming. And what is this syndrome? This is a post-COVID syndrome, which occurs 2 to 6 weeks after an asymptomatic COVID illness, as I mentioned. So when should alarm be raised? If your child suddenly has very high fever, if your blood test shows a high CRP and other inflammatory markers, if your child has got respiratory distress, is sleepy, has got cold extremities. So if a child develops fever and you're not sure why, I request all parents to contact your pediatrician, because this is one illness which has been associated with COVID. Across the world, pediatric hospitals are seeing this MISC. And you can also have your red lips, your red eyes, red tongue, rashes on the body. So these are all associated with your MISC. The treatment is very simple with immune suppressants. The protocols are all there. Outcomes are good, but you have to seek help and go to a good pediatric hospital, which is fine-tuned so that they recognize the syndrome and they treat it appropriately.
Okay, right. So we have a question from Master Abhijit. He's asking, he's 13 years old, and when will he get the vaccination?
Oh, that's so cute, Abhijit. I'm so glad there's no vaccine hesitancy among children. And
yes.
Very proactive, fantastic. And you are actually being socially responsible, because if you vaccinate, you not only protect yourself, you protect everybody in the family, and you're actually being part of the herd immunity, which is the only thing that is going to stop the pandemic. So the virus is going to affect everybody in some form or the other. So if we have vaccination, it prevents us getting the severe disease, because this virus is spreading everywhere and is going to touch every vulnerable individual. The vaccination is the only lifeline, and if we take it, we don't get severe infection. Whatever be any vaccine, it could be any vaccine. There's nothing, this is better than the other. All these vaccinations protect from severe disease. Now in Canada has been one of the first countries that has started vaccinating kids above 12 years. That is with the Pfizer vaccine. Now Moderna has also passed the test, and the FDA will soon approve it. In India, Covaxin is being tried. Very soon, kids will get vaccinated. Till then, please ensure that you follow your SMS, you socially distance, you sanitize, and you do mask. And especially when you're in crowded, you can even double mask. Now, parents, do not mask children who are less than 2 years old, because it can suffocate them. So the CDC says no masking for children below 2 years old.
Okay. So we have a question from Ms. Shishira. There is a research by expert doctors that the third wave can severely affect children. Please throw a light on this. They're asking if third wave.
No, so I don't want to. Yeah, so I don't want. Okay, that's Abhijit saying thank you. Right. So don't be alarmed. These are all speculations. There's so many uncertainties we do not know. Now, the third wave could affect children if we all become irresponsible. But if we are responsible citizens, we don't congregate. The adults follow their vaccinations. Our parents get vaccinated. Then we are also safe. So it is just a conjecture that because in the first wave you had elders, and then the second wave you had the middle-aged people. So it's just a natural speculation that the third wave will affect, but that is not certain. Even the Indian Academy of Pediatrics has said that this is not a definite. But having said that, all pediatric hospitals, all major cities have started a pediatric task force to protect and treat children for this third wave. So as I said, if the adults get infected, kids also will get infected because kids are with the adults. So it's just a reflection of the overall community transmission and the overall percentage of positive and disease positive individuals. Now, positivity is not bad. Just because you're COVID positive doesn't mean you have to be alarmed. You have to only worry about the disease. How many are getting hospitalized? That is the concern. With no symptoms, very mild symptoms is fine, because all of us are going to get positive or have the disease at some point. I had my vaccination. I have been treating COVID children, and I did get the infection, which passed off as a mild flu. For 2 days, I was unwell, and then I was fine. So all of us are going to get some form or the other. But if we do get vaccinated, and if we protect ourselves, the number of virus load is going to be significantly less, and that will reduce our disease severity. So that's very important. Vaccine is just one armor, and the other thing is your masking or your double masking in crowded places so that the virus load is also less.
Okay. So we have a question from 9A Gurishwar. I'm guessing that's another student sending in a question. So he's telling good morning. Yes. So good morning, ma'am. This is Gireshwar. Do children get affected with the new fungus? I'm guessing he's telling the black fungus condition.
That's such a brilliant question. Girish, well, anyone can get any infection if we are not careful. In adults, the cause of the fungus generally has been uncontrolled diabetes. So when the adults get sick, adults get COVID, they get a drug called steroids, which is life-saving. So more than your remdesivir and others, it is the steroid and blood thinners that are life-saving. You have to give steroids for the second phase of illness. That is the immune phase. When you're immune, all of us have good immunity and we fight the virus. But in some individuals, it goes on an overdrive. And that is the second phase. So after the 6-7 day, when you again get fever, very high fever, and your oxygen levels plummet, that is when you need steroids. So oxygen levels going down, steroids. So these two go hand in hand. So the steroids can worsen the sugar levels in diabetic patients. And if it's not controlled very well, then they are at risk for fungal infections. So that's about it. So you don't have to worry. You will, I'm sure your parents will take you to good doctors, and you will, and as I said, kids don't fall so ill with this second phase of illness. That is the cytokine, the immune phase. So the risk is lesser, but we have to be responsible. Parents, look at the prescription, adult prescription, as well as your child's prescription. Ensure that there are no steroids in the first 5 days of illness. Steroids only increase the virus replication. It'll actually worsen the condition. So ensure that there is no steroids prescribed in the first 5 days of illness, both for adult and pediatrics, right? In adults, we do give nebulized steroids for comorbid and above 60. That's the nebulized budesonide, 800 mics twice a day for at-risk patients, but not for children. Children, you don't need steroids. Adults, you don't need oral steroids in the first 5 days. If it's prescribed later, it is only when your oxygen levels are down.
Okay.
That's a very good question. So steroids and other things increase your risk for fungal infection. So just ensure that don't we don't consume steroids.
Okay. Okay. So then we have a question from Mr. Aditya Raghav. So thanks for the positivity, doctor. My son is 5 years, 11 months. I had not given his usual immunization for 5 to 6 years. Is it fine to vaccinate during this pandemic? Please guide.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. You must vaccinate because there are other viruses, there are other infections also there. There are kids who are getting typhoid. So we've had children who had fever, and then we ruled out all COVID and MIS-C, and turned out the blood culture turned out to be typhoid positive. So those are still here to stay.
Yes.
Dengue is here to stay. The other infections are here to stay. So do immunize your child. Your pediatrician, I'm sure, has a nice way of keeping children and parents safe during the vaccination. So the waiting area and all, I'm sure, would be organized. Do contact, but please do not delay your vaccination because you can get other diseases. Okay. So adults, please, above 60, do take your pneumococcal infections. Diabetic people should take their pneumococcal shots every 5 years, and the flu shots also. Be safe when you go to hospitals or the clinic, but don't delay vaccinations. Right. Any form of immunization, including the COVID.
Yes. So next we have a question from Ms. Preeti Lakani. Is it safe for children to play in the apartment ground or terrace?
See, I'm a pediatrician. I'm
sorry? Can you please mute yourself? If you have a question, you can please drop it in the chat box.
I don't have the heart to say don't play, because social interaction is so very important. But remember that now, if we are in the midst of a second wave, we also have to become socially responsible. So try to play, have some games where you don't need close interactions, because kids can be asymptomatic carriers. And if there are elders in others' households, they could be badly affected. So very close play, try to avoid. If you're sitting, all of you sitting supervised, and you all are masking very well, and it's a supervised play, that is fine. But if it's going to be a rough contact sport, and then, that, I think let's postpone that for a little later, because we have to be social responsible. And each of us, remember that we are all connected in the social web. So if there is a weak link, the whole chain will fall apart. We will pass on the infection. And this virus is so contagious that if one person gets the infection, he passes on to 2, and those 2 will pass on to 4, and it just goes exponentially. So we have to be a little more. Play activities, you can still go on, but not too close, not contact sports. It can be a little more supervised play. So social interaction is very important. So parents, just try to choose the type of games. Board games may be fine if they're all supervised and they're all well masked. How long can we keep children indoors without interaction? So I think the parents will understand what I mean.
Right. So the next question is from 9B Abhiyut. Good morning, ma'am. My parents vaccinated with Covishield, and now they have extended the second dose of vaccine from 6 to 8 weeks to 12 weeks. Will there be any problem on the health of the individual? Brilliant question.
Very good question. My gosh, I'm getting very good question. Next time we'll only target students, I think.
Yes, the students.
Yes, so brilliant. Huh? So that's nice. So now there were studies even before in Lancet in UK that showed that the antibody response was much better if the second dose was delayed. There were already studies, even before this rule came to India, there were studies that did show that 90 days, your antibodies are much higher if the gap between the Covishield doses were 90 days. But because there's a pandemic and we wanted to get as many people, vaccinated, especially the elders, we wanted to do it faster. So we reduced the interval, but 3 months, so it's perfectly fine, because there are studies that show that good antibodies. But remember, your full antibodies develop to the COVID virus develops only 2 weeks after the second dose, right? So you still have to be very careful in between your doses. And even after your doses, don't become, don't be a risk taker. Oh, I've had my vaccine, so I can take off my mask and be free, because vaccination is not foolproof. It is only about 60 to 70%. It protects from severe disease, but you still could get the mild to moderate form. You could still infect people at home. And so you have to be careful. No vaccination is 100% effective or 100% safe. And that is true for any vaccine. So we have to still follow COVID appropriate behavior, and follow the masking, social distancing, always.
Right. So we have a question
Till
from
everybody in the earth is at least, infected or vaccinated by the things, about 70% of the entire world population, and which is still a long way to go. So we have to be very, very careful. There are different variants. Remember, when we talk about variants, flu virus, this is an RNA virus, and RNA virus are notorious to mutate. That is known with the flu virus also. So that's why your flu shots will be from the last year's strain. This year's strain would be different. So also for COVID. So the last year, all your vaccination, Pfizer, Covishield, Covaxin, are from the previous year's strain, the original. Now the virus, as the virus keeps infecting others, it is getting stronger. It is trying to become, it will change its personality so that, it can infect more and more people. So we have to be more strong. We have to be smarter than this invisible virus, right? So we have to prevent more and more people getting infected. Then the virus will not get a vulnerable host and will not be able to change. Remember, the virus can only survive in a host, and it needs another vulnerable host to spread. If you cut that link, if you don't allow it to spread, then the virus will die a natural death, and so also the pandemic.
Right. So we have a question from Ms. Durga Lakshmi and Hovian about healthy food chart for kids to boost their immune system.
So no stress. Kids have good play. Don't worry. Parents, don't worry. Stress is the worst. It damages immunity. If you just Google and see stress and immunity, you'll have enough information saying that stress increases your bad hormones. We say, no, when you play, when you laugh, you have good endorphins, and they boost your immunity, whereas stress kills it. So please don't look at news too much. Don't look at black fungus, right? I'm in a hospital. Last 1.5 years, I have been treating children during this COVID pandemic also. If I start looking and getting paranoid, I wouldn't be coming to hospital. So if I'm here smiling, I'm sure you can also remain cheerful. So don't get sleep well. Don't be stressed. It is natural to be anxious, but not be overtly. Don't become paranoid. Don't be worried that COVID is everywhere, that if I touch this surface, if I touch that surface, I'm going to get COVID. COVID is more in the air. So if you do masking and if you keep good ventilation, close rooms, small rooms, people huddled together, that increases. So even when you're playing children, ensure that all the windows are open, the fan is on, then it will prevent the virus circulating in the room. Closed rooms only and poor ventilation increases the virus and aerosolization. Good food, normal home food is good. All variety of food, whatever you like. Now, obesity, children, because if you're not exercising enough and if you tuck in a lot of sweets and a lot of fast foods and, all those rich fried foods, you will tend to put on a lot of weight during lockdown, which is very, very bad. So parents, please watch. I know you would love to cook a lot of food and sweets for your children, but just watch their weight. Ensure that they do not gain weight. This also holds good for the parents because we are not able to do so much of, physical activity outdoors. So just be mindful of your weight, but eat healthy, good protein food, lot of nuts, lot of fruit, non-veg, veg, that whatever, but greens. Please take walnuts, almonds, and adults, please take your flax seeds, your sunflower. All those seeds have got good omega, antioxidants, a lot of fruits. Soups for children. Yeah, I think home food is the best food. And Indian food has got so much variety. That's the best.
Okay, a question from Kayan Shah. So my pediatrician has suggested Zincovit every day. Is it safe to take it every day?
Shalina, I don't know how he read my mind. I was just going to touch upon Zincovit and thing when you talked about immunity. So, yes, yeah. Who was he? So, Mr. Shah.
Kayan Shah, Mr. Kayan Shah.
Okay, so Zincovit normal, that's got the normal maintenance dose for your zinc and other multivitamins, which is fine once a day. So your syrups for children, but please don't overdose vitamin D, don't overdose vitamin C because they are all toxic. Vitamin C can cause, kidney stones and all if you overdose it. So it's not very good. When you have your illness, we say take some vitamin C. So it's better to have citrus fruits, and that's the best natural way to get your vitamin C. Zincovit in normal doses is fine. So don't go overboard with all your vitamins. They could also be very toxic. And no prolonged vitamin D or vitamin C. Just be careful because they do have side effects and they can become toxic. Even zinc high doses, the 20 milligrams, the Zincovit has got the normal maintenance, but if you have pure zinc in whatever form, that milligrams is much higher, which is not good in the for a long term. Not more than 2-3 days. So you really don't need these. If you're eating a balanced food, you don't need this excess vitamins.
Right. So we have a question from Ms. Rishika. Since the virus is airborne and nowadays most of the crowd live in apartment, we tend to put the clothes for drying in the balcony. Is it safe to the clothes immediately after drying? And should we leave it aside for 1 or 2 days and then use it?
Yeah. Yeah, so there were a lot of, initially in the pandemic, whether it spreads through newspaper, through vegetables, through the different formats. Now I'm sitting in a hospital. You can see this is an outpatient, this is a clinic and everything. Then I would be scared of touching things around me. The spread through fomites is negligible. Your clothes hanging outside because it's outdoor and it's in sunlight, it's not going to have the coronavirus. So you don't have to worry. Soap and water are the best. They kill coronavirus. Now the virus has got a lipid envelope and soap removes that lipid envelope. So it actually kills the virus. So a simple soap detergent kills the coronavirus. So when you do hand washing with soap and water, you're actually killing the coronavirus. It's more effective than your alcohol sanitizers, which could cause peeling. Remember, when you use alcohol sanitizers or any sanitizers, the alcohol content should be more than 60% at least, ideal 70%. But if you use that too much, you could have very dry, peeling skin. So soap water is the best. We use sanitizers when we don't have this access to water and soap. Don't worry about fomites. You don't have to use bleach and other things in your vegetables. In fact, those chemicals could be more toxic and you're going to consume them. When you cook food, all these viruses and all die when you wash with soap. So don't be too paranoid about that and lose focus. We tend to be obsessed about those things and forget about our masking, vaccinations, and distancing.
Yes, right. So I think we're running out of time here and I've received a lot of questions from the participants. We have noted everything down and we will soon do another session on the same topic, COVID-19 in children and young adults. So we will be informing your institutions about that. And we're very excited, very happy that a lot of students have participated in this webinar and shooting out brilliant questions. So thank you for all the little ones for joining and all the elders for tuning in today. And thank you, Dr. Indra, for patiently answering all the questions and for making yourself available for this webinar today. We know how busy you are. So thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much for everybody who joined in today. Thank you.
My pleasure, Shalina, and thank you, parents, for this opportunity. Be a role model for your kids. They are learning to become socially responsible. Don't think that you are missed out in your studies. This is an education in life is a lot more than just studies and book knowledge. They are learning a lot from you. This is life and you're preparing them for life. They also pick up cues. So if you are stressed, they will also become stressed. So we all have to learn to reach out to our friends and learn to manage our stress and answer your kids' questions. There's so many bright questions with age-appropriate answers. So even small kids will have a lot of worries and concerns. So do parents respond to your kids' keep them, take them into your confidence. They will become more responsible, and they'll understand why the world is doing what we are doing now. So let's all stay connected and be socially responsible. Till then, be safe. Thank you all.
Great. So, and parents and students, this video will also be uploaded to our social media, and you can also encourage other people to watch this webinar and gain the information, the information that Dr. Indra shed light on. So, thank you so much for joining. We'll see you on the next webinar.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me.
Yes.
Hello.
Please. Yes.
Ma'am. Yeah, I had a doubt, ma'am. So, first of all, namaste, ma'am. Yeah. Most of the people said we have to take that vitamin C, D, and capsules because the food, whatever we are eating, the food, our body is not taking it properly. So we are getting the deficiency. So if we take that vitamin tablet, so our body will absorb all the food. So how is it true, ma'am? How long it is true? But taking that vitamin C and D capsules is not also good for our body now, ma'am.
So you're very rightly said. So normal multivitamins are fine, normal multivitamins. But when you take one particular vitamin, and that too in higher dose, that can become toxic if you take it for a prolonged period. Now you have infection, COVID, and you take for 3-4 days, that is fine because vitamin C is water soluble. But if you take it higher dose, only vitamin C for prolonged periods, or only vitamin D, that is definitely toxic. So multivitamins as such, if you take regular strength, that is because it has your recommended daily dosage. So that those drugs are okay. Good food, fruits, that is vitamin C. I think we should reach out to one guava, we should reach out to one orange more than your vitamin C tablet, because that's so easy to consume also, right? Or your fresh fruit every day. Vitamin D, yes, many adults and things do have low vitamin D because we don't expose ourselves so much to sunlight. But even that has to be, prescribed by your doctor. So we do have this weekly sachets. You can't continue it for too long. It has to be supervised and recommended by your doctor.
Hello, ma'am. My name is
self-medication.
Yes.
Self-medication causes problems. If your doctor has advised it, it is fine. But don't
Wait.
These are all over-the-counter drugs. So please don't buy it over the counter because they do have toxic effects. That's what I want. That's the message I want to get across.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. How can we improve? How can we improve, ma'am? That taking all these vegetables, is our body absorbs everything, ma'am?
Oh,
How can we know that?
Yes. The body definitely will absorb. And if we remain staying fit, do exercise, do your pranayama, go for a walk. All this is very important, as well as watch your weight, eat less, fatty food and fried food, and eat all forms of food. It will definitely get absorbed and you will be a healthy person, fitter person. This virus actually does test. It's a form. It does test our health. If we are fit, we are able to fight the virus.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Indra.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Running out of time here, dear participants.
One more question.
Note down all your questions. We will get back to you with the answers. So thank you so much, everyone, for all the questions.